Now, I don't think there's any question that many Americans want to see deportations. Americans are not happy with the open borders that happened over the last several administrations. People are not thrilled about illegals being here without documentation, especially the Latino community. They helped get Trump elected this last term because many of them who went through the process legally do not want their jobs undercut by people coming across the border willing to work for less, willing to essentially do slave labor, live in apartments filled with people where they send the money back to Mexico. A lot of the law-abiding Mexican immigrants who've come in or Latino immigrants who've come into the United States were supportive of Trump's deportation plans. But I think a lot of Americans, and the polls are backing this up, and we're seeing many people who supported Trump starting to say, you know what, I'm not really happy about this. Most Americans are showing that they're not thrilled with the way Trump has been going about these ICE raids, that it doesn't look like just deportations. It instead looks like a clampdown on civil liberties for all of us, not just those who are here illegally. Even Joe Rogan has turned on Trump. He supported Donald Trump, said he was voting for Donald Trump. He showed up even to his inauguration. And Joe Rogan is now saying, you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Watch this.
But you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to? But you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around.
Yeah. Well, we can watch it again. Why not?
Snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it. ICE has been going around on the streets asking anybody and everybody for their papers. How did Obama do it? This is what I'm trying to figure out. Obama deported a record number of people. Trump is claiming he's deporting even more. Obama, I think at his highest, deported about 450,000 in 1 year. Trump is actually claiming that in his first year, he's deported 650,000. We don't have any verification of those numbers, but that's what he's claiming. I don't know if that includes those who have self-deported. They're claiming that millions have self-deported. It's unclear. Those numbers are going to shake out in another year or two. That's usually how that works out. So they could be right. They could be on record, record track for record deportations, or they might not be. But how did Obama do it without going door to door asking people for their papers or going door to door? What they're doing in Minneapolis right now is we're seeing reports of people saying they got knocks on the door. ICE came to the door and said, do you have any Asian neighbors, asking for them to literally point out the homes where people are not white. That's what they're asking people to do. And that is very Gestapo-like. Now, you might say, yeah, but this is different. This is different because the Germans were just, they were doing something really wrong. They were hunting Jews and we're hunting illegals. Well, the Germans, from their point of view, were hunting illegals as well. They were hunting people who were economically taking advantage. They never really said Jews specifically, maybe towards the end. But when they started off and they got everybody on board with this, they said, this is the moral degradation of our society. We're stopping people who are against us, who don't have the national interests of Germany in mind. They are facilitating the degradation of morality. They are economic. They're taking advantage of people economically. There's all of these bad things that these people are doing. And we just want to talk to them. And we just want to, we want to find out if your neighbor is one of them or not. And then it turned out, of course, later on, then they say, okay, well, they were hunting all the Jews and the gypsies and anybody who wasn't an Aryan, somebody who wasn't white. So you can't say, oh, no, this is different, because it always starts off under the guise of, look, we're just trying to get bad guys. We're just trying to protect our society. We're just trying to we're just trying to protect the law-abiding citizens of our community. That's how it starts, and people go along with it. So I don't think it's unfair to compare this to the Gestapo when they are using Gestapo-like tactics. Now, you might say, oh, no, but this is necessary. And people will always say that. During COVID, people said, this is necessary. We have to ask for your papers. We need to know if you're safe to be out there, if you've been vaccinated or not. There's always an excuse for us to say, we want this. We want this authoritarian state going around checking our papers. There's always an excuse. But that excuse will always be used against you when you don't want it to be. So be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you ask for. Be careful for whatever rights or shakedowns you expect on other people, because it will come back to get you when the next group is in power. And then they have the ability to swing the hammer and it's going to be in your direction. Rogan also goes on to say, there's a problem with these guys being masked up. And this cannot be understated, especially for women in a community. But let's watch. Here's the reality. Whether you supported Trump or hoped he'd actually break the system, a lot of voters are coming to the same conclusion. Washington didn't change. It just rotated personnel. The U.S. is no longer the unchallenged economic center of the world. Massive deficits, endless foreign conflicts, BRICS expanding, allies hedging, and the dollar being used as a political weapon have all forced a global rethink. Now, that doesn't mean America collapses tomorrow. It means many people are rethinking keeping all of their wealth tied to one system and one currency. And that's why Block Trust IRA makes sense right now. Block Trust IRA lets you hold Bitcoin and other crypto assets inside a tax-advantaged IRA legally and cleanly without blowing up your retirement plan. Crypto works as a hedge because it's scarce, borderless, and not issued by any government that can print more, freeze accounts, or change the rules mid-game. It doesn't rely on the Fed's credibility, Congress's discipline, or the dollar's reserve status privilege lasting forever. Block Trust IRA gives you diversification outside a legacy system. And even better, Block Trust IRA has a proprietary AI system you can use, which has outperformed Bitcoin itself by over 250%, not by guessing, but by taking advantage of market volatility. You can roll over an old 401k or IRA or just start fresh. They support dozens of major cryptocurrencies, all stored in secure cold storage with serious insurance behind it. And right now, you can book a free consultation and get a $2,500 funding bonus just by going to blocktrustkim.com. Again, that's blocktrustkim.com. Don't miss out on this great opportunity to get started in crypto investing the smart way.
I think after that woman was shot, I think unfortunately, well, everything's unfortunate about it, right? But one of the real problems is now ICE are villains. And now people are looking at them like murderous military people that are on the streets of our city, and they're masked up, which is also a problem, right? Because if you get arrested by a cop, you're allowed to ask the cop, what is your name and badge number? And you could film that cop. If you get arrested by an ICE agent, you have no such right. They're wearing a mask. They don't have to tell you shit. That's a problem. That's a problem on our city streets, right? Because you could also pretend to be an ICE agent.
Right. Do you know how many women are now at risk because we've allowed ICE agents to wear masks, not identify themselves, drive around in unmarked cars? This is putting women at risk of rape. Bottom line, it is. It's a group of guys or one man who's a predator could absolutely dress up, hide his face, drive in an unmarked car because he doesn't have one because he's not actually ICE, and go and bust into a woman's home, or pull her over on the side of the road or whatever. And this is a problem. This is an actual problem. In fact, I think that a lot of the men who are in particular really supportive of ICE, it's still more men are supportive of the ICE tactics than women. In fact, let me just go ahead and throw up this poll for you. This is a really interesting poll of the people who are supportive. Actually, this is the poll of who's supportive of abolishing ICE. So a lot of people were not in favor of abolishing police or abolishing ICE. I've never been one of those people that wanted to abolish. But this is astonishing. The numbers have gone from the vast majority of people saying, okay, that's a crazy fringe idea. I mean, that's with police. But now with ICE, actually the majority of people are for, there's more people who are for abolishing ICE than against it. And what's really interesting is the demographic on this. If you look at this whole thing here, the question on here, this is an Economist YouGov poll. It is the support for abolishing ICE. Okay, support for it is in bold there. The total support for abolishing ICE right now is 46%. Opposing ICE, abolishing ICE, is 43%. So more people are for abolishing ICE than against abolishing ICE. For men, it is 41%. Are supportive of abolishing, 50% female in support of abolishing. The race of who wants to abolish: whites, it's 39%, blacks, 62%, Hispanics, 58%. Age is quite interesting as well. Younger people, of course, are more in support, but not by a lot. I mean, the percentage of young people in support of abolishing ICE is 54%. Compare that to the boomers. It's 46% of boomers. 46% are, in fact, boomers are split almost half and half. Support for abolishing ICE is 46%. Opposing abolishing ICE is 47% amongst the boomers. They're almost half and half. And the other demographics, 30 to 44, it's 42% is supporting abolishing. 45 to 64, this is where we see a few more people opposed to abolishing ICE. In the 45 to 64 range, 42% support abolishing ICE, whereas 48% are against abolishing ICE. But then you get to the boomers and they're like, yeah, you know what, maybe we should. It's about 50-50, which is really interesting. And it's a big question about, what is why is it that people 45 to 64 are more about keeping ICE and they like what's going on compared to boomers, and really definitely compared to young people. And the income divide is about the same. It doesn't seem to matter about income levels. 45% of people making under 50,000 want to abolish ICE. 48% of people making 50 to 100 grand want to abolish ICE, and 45% of people making $100,000 or more want to abolish ICE. This isn't looking good for ICE or for the administration. I think these same people, if you were to ask them, do you want to see deportations? Do you want open borders? Do you all of the things that they think, liberals, they just want open borders and they want people just come flooding in and they can undercut on the jobs. The vast majority of people are going to say, no, I want strong borders and I want deportations. They just don't want it like this. They think there's a better way to do it. Here's Rogan also talking about the deportation of a young person. This is a divided hot topic. He's talking about a young man who's deported after coming here as a baby without papers, then later is hunted down and deported without ever committing a crime. People are pretty divided on this, but I'm still going to say most people, I think, agree with Joe Rogan on this.
Then they start showing up at Home Depot. Instead of looking for gangbangers, looking for criminals and cartel members, they go to whatever's easiest pickings so they can get numbers up. There's do you know Ed Calderon? Do you know who he is? He worked, he was a Mexican military guy who now is an American citizen, but he reports extensively on the cartels and just was telling me some horror stories about ICE raids. And one of them was they took this guy who'd been brought over here when he was a baby, but didn't have American citizenship. His family, came over here illegally, lived here for 20 years, can't speak Spanish. They deport him. Send him to Tijuana.
Can't speak Spanish.
Can't speak Spanish. Does not speak Spanish. He is essentially an American citizen. He just never lived anywhere else. He just doesn't have the paperwork. He's not a criminal. They sent him over to Tijuana, and now he has to live in Mexico. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. He's on the streets. Has no idea. He doesn't have any money.
So a lot of people, their reaction to this is, well, that's his parents' fault. They brought him over as a baby without documentation. He grew up in America, never committed a crime. He was working, he was doing what every other American kid does. And instead, he gets rounded up and deported back to Mexico. Can't even speak Spanish. He's never lived there. He's only known America as his home. Now, a lot of people like myself would say, America's this kid's home. And this is the only home he's ever known. And it is totally and completely unfair to remove somebody who grew up here. They did not make a choice. They didn't even commit the crime of crossing the border illegally. That was not a choice they made. They were brought over. So here's a person who's literally committed no crimes. They just happen to be here and this is their home. I don't see any value or benefit to America in deporting somebody like that. In fact, I see a negative only. And the negative is you create somebody who now maybe hates the country they grew up in and who knows the country really well. And you don't want to make an enemy out of somebody or a group of people who know your territory really well. One of the things that makes it very difficult to fight wars on other people's land is they know that land and you don't. But what happens when you create a war with people who do know your land, right? That's like a civil war. It creates more of a civil war. And that is much harder to fight, much more dangerous, much more difficult. And I'm not saying that these kids are going to come back running across the border and try to wage war, but if we create enough of them, if we create enough hatred, if we create enough anger from, let's say, Latin America with all of the things that we do with our regime change and hobbling their economies and sanctioning them and keeping them poor. Who's to say that these kids that grew up here in America wouldn't rise up through the ranks to become generals of foreign armies and come in and they know exactly how we live, how we think, our terrain, everything. I mean, is that lost on the administration? And that's not even the reason to actually keep them. That's just one of the, I'm just trying to speak the same language of those who really want to deport these people by saying, well, look at it from a perspective of national security. Look at it from a perspective of war. And then tell me if you think this is actually a clever idea. But that's not the real reason to not deport. The real reason to not deport is because America is supposed to be a shining beacon of freedom and humanity more than anything. Yes, we are a nation of laws. Yes, we are meant to uphold laws. And this is how we maintain freedom, is by having laws that protect people. But when we start reeling into becoming the nation of just vengeance and hate for the sake of it, where is the humanity in that? America is supposed to be a nation that has deep-rooted humanity, and that's what's supposed to set us apart from the brutal dictators from around the world, is our humanity. But where is the humanity in deporting a kid that grew up here who knows America as his only home, and he gets deported back to Mexico? Where is the humanity in that? Now, people are just people are not going along with this. And I think, again, it's important to remember that Americans have gone along with some pretty dystopian, terrible things throughout time, only to later regret it. And we've got to take a moment, take a beat and stop and think about what we're doing, why you support it, and maybe pause for a moment and wonder, in 20 years from now, are you going to live to regret that? Because my guess is after 9/11, you probably supported the Patriot Act. A lot of Americans did, only to what? Later regret that. Later to realize that was weaponized against Americans. We all suffered a lack of rights because of it, and they never gave them back. And during that time, when Patriot Act was being passed and there were people out there saying, we don't want this. And others were saying, well, then you want what? You're on the side of Al-Qaeda. You're on the side of Osama bin Laden. That you're a shill for Osama bin Laden. You don't want the Patriot Act. I mean, those are the types of things that were said. And it was, yeah, but this is different. We're under attack. This is war. We have to. People will fight tooth and nail to give up their rights. People will fight for that. They will scream for it. They will demand it. And they will yell at their neighbors, family members, and friends for not wanting to go along with that. And we're in that moment now, where we've got ICE on the streets, and they are shaking down American citizens. They're shaking down, they're shaking down anybody and everybody, shooting protesters in the eyes with rubber bullets and with real bullets. That's what we've seen. I'm going to show you here in just a second. Also, I want to show you this. This is a poll here that most Americans are also not for. The people have acted like this is a real hot debate between whether or not Renee Good deserved to be killed by an ICE agent or not. Fact is, most Americans don't believe that she should have been killed. They believe that was an unjustified shooting. That is the majority of Americans, and it's a vast majority. It's let's see what the actual numbers here from the poll here is that 53% said the shooting was not justified compared to 35% who said it was. So it's not even really split 50-50. That's a 20-point difference. Most Americans do not agree with this. Let me show you this. CNN put together a compilation of a lot of the violence that has gone on in Minneapolis. This is what people are seeing. Now, you might say, well, it's because of the establishment media, like CNN, the liberal hack establishment media is only showing people the negative of what ICE is doing and not what the protesters are doing. But that doesn't really matter. I mean, the protesters, well, I'll show you, a lot of these protesters are not being violent at all. Are they being annoying? Yes, they're annoying. But that's not a crime. That's what protests are supposed to be, actually. Otherwise, what's the point of protesting? You're not going to get anything you want if you're not the squeaky wheel. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. But here's CNN showing a compilation of some of the violence that is being experienced right now in Minneapolis.
Why are you arresting her?
Let's get that. Here we go.
What the is wrong with you? You're just trying to fucking kill him!
What you just saw was a federal immigration agent pushing an unidentified protester into oncoming traffic after appearing to block their vehicle.
They just fired off a tear gas canister.
I mean, that was nuts. Did you see that? Let's go back just for a second. They pushed this guy right into the pathway of an oncoming bus. Did you see the bus?
They're gonna try to fucking kill him!
Look at this.
What you just saw was a federal immigration agent pushing an unidentified protester into oncoming traffic.
Right there, that bus. I mean, what in the heck? This is insane.
After appearing to an anti-ICE protester who appeared to swat an agent's hand away while recording an immigration enforcement operation. These moves coming on the heels of an explosive week for ICE. Their aggressive tactics only seem to be escalating.
This woman they grabbed out of a car. She was on her way to the doctor. They told her not to turn down this particular road. She's like, no, I'm turning down this road. They had blocked off the road because they were doing a raid. And she's like, no, I'm going down this road. I'm going to the doctor. I'm going down this road. And they pulled her out of the car, cut her seatbelt, and she was disabled on her way to the doctor. I mean,
last week, tensions between ICE and protesters erupted when a woman in Minneapolis was shot and killed by an ICE, raising questions by some police use of force experts whether the tactics of agents in handling both suspects and activists are inflaming an already volatile situation.
If they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime, and we will hold them accountable to those consequences.
Social media has been flooded with an onslaught of videos showcasing the rising tensions between ICE and protesters in Minneapolis.
Spray somebody like that right in the face.
Wasn't the start of these aggressive tactics. It was more of a tipping point. In August of 2025, Oregon state officials released a video of two federal officers slamming a protester to the ground outside an ICE facility. What? DHS says it was a targeted arrest of a dangerous rider who
really they need that many agents for that person who was standing there?
Previously assaulted law enforcement. In September, officers shot pepper balls from the rooftop of an ICE facility down at a protest in Illinois, hitting a pastor. DHS released a statement saying that the agitators ignored verbal warnings and were impeding operations by blocking an ICE vehicle from leaving the facility.
I mean, I just have to say, this morning I woke up to messages from one of my best friends who now lives in Russia. She's Russian. I knew her in LA for a long time, and she ended up going back after she got married. So She messages me this morning from Moscow, right, from Russia. And she's like, what is going on over there? America looks crazy. I'm so glad I left, is what she's saying. I'm so glad I live in Moscow now. I mean, what has gone on with America? It is really loony. I mean, this is what foreigners are thinking of our country. And we sit there and we call their countries brutal dictatorships. And they're looking at what's going on here. And they're like, America is really a violent, terrible place. Let me play this for you. This is a woman that was arrested just for simply observing. And this is what some of the reports that are happening. They're being very violent with people who are just observing, videotaping to ensure that they capture on camera the illegal things or the negative things that law enforcement are doing. Everybody in America should be pro that, by the way. I mean, it's literally why we have body cams on cops, is because we want footage of cop interaction with civilians so that we can catch them in wrongdoing, because they're the ones with power. They're the ones with the guns. They're the ones with the authority. We need to have some protection as civilians. That means you record them. We don't have body cams on ICE. So people are now recording ICE, and this is the type of stuff that's happening to them. This woman was thrown down, this 55-year-old woman thrown down and arrested.
Why are you arresting her?
It was about 6:30, and I got the alert on the North Minneapolis Rapid Response Group that there was an abduction happening. So I went right over there, and I approached one of the officers I saw there and asked if she was ICE, and she told me to get back, and I didn't get back, and pretty soon they were throwing me on the ground and handcuffing me and putting me in their unmarked truck.
Here's another one that got arrested for observing, and he got beat up a bit.
You've been warned that you continue to follow us and you're breaking a lot of...
Oh, no. Hell no. Nope.
We warned you, sir.
Nope. One of those ICE agents went into the back seat, gave me a chokehold around the driver's headrest, unbuckled my seatbelt from behind me in my car, and those 5 agents pulled me to the street, put me in cuffs, and put me in an unmarked van.
Now you might say, well, these aren't actual journalists. These are just people that are harassing ICE by filming them, which that is how you. I mean, I would argue they are journalists. They're doing citizen journalism. They are in fact filming. But if you don't like that and you think they deserve what they get, here's a real journalist getting attacked, hit in the head. This is from Status Coup, actually.
Oh, I got hit in the head really bad.
This is Zach Roberts with Status Quo.
Out of the blue, police are moving forward. Shooting, firing. I got hit in the head, man.
So they're using chemical weapons. Here's the local news. This reporter starts coughing because they're using chemical weapons.
We saw an ambulance leave the scene right when we got here, and that was when there was only a couple dozen protesters. But that group has to continue to grow as, here we go, Julie, more chemical irritant being deployed, and there are some flashbangs, Julie.
All right, Joe, we're going to let you
disperse the crowd here.
Okay, we're going to let you get to a safer location.
I'm just annoyed that she's like, okay, we're going to let you get to a safer location. They should have just kept the camera rolling. We want to see that. We don't want to break to this woman in a studio watching. Okay, but anyway, I'm annoyed by that. But here's another one. A father with a family of 6 kids in his car ends up getting hit by these chemical weapons as well.
Are using chemical irritants. They are using flashbangs. We also talked to an individual who was not involved with the protest, and he was just trying to get his kids out of the neighborhood. He had 6 kids loaded into his car, including a 6-month-old, when law enforcement threw a flashbang at his car, and now he has told us all 6 of his kids were transported to the hospital. We saw EMS come in. We expect that they are going to be okay, but obviously that father tonight is very worried about his kids. When he says he wanted nothing to do with this protest, he was just trying to get out of here.
I mean, he was just trying to get out with 6 kids, one of them 6 months old, and now that 6-month-old kid has been hit with chemical weapons. I mean, people are against this. There's a better way to deport people. It's been done before. Don't act like this is the only way. It's been done in other ways for years and years. Obama did it for many years. So how did he do it without gassing little babies? Somehow he was able to do it. Figure it out. It can't be that difficult. But that's the thing. They don't want to figure it out because that's not the plan. The plan is to condition you to accepting this type of enforcement in our lives. The plan is for you to accept, especially, and they figured out how to do it. The very crowd that is very much in favor of this is the very crowd that was against the COVID mandates. They saw an America they could not control under COVID, and it was mostly coming from the right. So they figured out how to get the right under control, and they figured out you just got to push the right button. That's it. You didn't want to be restricted because of COVID. You didn't want to be locked down because of COVID. You didn't want to be asked for your papers because of COVID. Fine. But you know what? When ICE approaches you and asks you for your papers, you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen and I follow the law and I'm allowed to be here. So I will happily show him my papers. Right? Said all the people during COVID as well who got the vaccine 10 times and were happy to show their vaccine card. What is the difference? There's a difference, but the difference is these people are not supposed to be here, and they're trying to get all those illegals and get them out of our country. Okay, well, that's what I heard during COVID. But this is different. Grandma's being killed. How dare you? You're a murderer. You're a total murderer. I'm going to show you this one. This is a protester. Again, this is the type of thing that we cannot be for. If they are going to clamp down on protests, they will clamp down on you when you're protesting. You'll be protesting something else when it's President AOC, and you're going to get shot in the eye by a rubber bullet and you're going to lose it. Here is a protester. I want you to pay attention to this. I'm going to play this twice so that you can see what's happened. Okay, now we could back up. Okay, so let's back up. So you see the kid in the white shirt. That's probably what you mostly were paying attention to, but that's not the kid that you should pay attention to. That kid is fighting back with the law enforcement. Now you see him, they grab the kid in the white shirt, okay? So they got the kid in the white shirt. Now there's protesters behind them, one with a megaphone, and they're marching behind ICE. They're annoying. They've got megaphones, they're annoying. But all they're doing is marching and chanting while they're now trying to wrestle with this kid in the white shirt. Now pay attention to the kid holding the megaphone. He's wearing all black, holding a megaphone. He gets shot in the face. with a rubber bullet or with something. I'm not even sure what type of non-lethal ammunition they have in that weapon, but he ends up losing an eye. 21 years old. Lost an eye after they shot him point blank in the face with these, supposedly non-lethal rounds, which are not meant to be used that close. But look at it again. He's just chanting behind them. Running and chanting, gets shot in the face. And lost an eye. American citizen. I mean, people are just seeing this and they're thinking this is an assault on protesting. This is an assault on our right to protest. This is meant to condition us to think, well, those protesters shouldn't have been there. Do you know how many times I'm hearing this over and over from people? Well, those protesters shouldn't have been there. Are you American or not? Protesters should not be there? Okay. Why don't you just move to China or Russia? I mean, that's what you say to people all the time. Oh, you don't like it? Why don't you just move to China or Russia? Well, why don't you just move to China or Russia? You're the one who wants to not have protesters. Then you'll love it there. It's an authoritarian regime, you keep telling us. Well, then that seems to be your jam. Go live there. Here's another one. This is a bunch of kids on bikes swarming an ICE car. These are the tactics, by the way, that were used in World War II against Nazi Germany. Many people resisted by swarming around with their bicycles. And this is also the treatment they got. I mean, I want you to watch this video again. This is a kid getting hit by the car. So he gets run over legitimately. You could actually see him getting hit. It actually stops his bike from going any further. Now, if this kid had a gun, would he have the right to shoot this guy in the face? I'm just asking questions. And then this ICE officer and a grown man, this kid is hobbling. Like, do you see him limping? Like he's limping away because he just got hit by a car. He's limping away, and this ICE officer tackles him to the ground, a kid. We also have reports of another minor, 16 years old. His dad was undocumented. The kid is an American citizen. They still wrestled the kid to the ground, put him in a chokehold. He ended up in the hospital. They stole his phone. The kid actually had the Find My phone enabled on his iPhone, and he found it in a vending machine for used phones. Basically, ICE stole his phone, sold it for money, and that phone ended up in a retail vending machine for phones. And he found it by using Find My. I mean, that's the type of stuff that ICE is doing. Now, I know the protesters are also doing violent. There are, of course, some protesters doing violent things, for sure. I, though, have a question on, when people say, oh, they're paid agitators. Who's paying them? People say, oh, well, the left, George Soros is paying them to be agitators. Really? I don't know. Because I think that there's more of a benefit for the people on the right who want ICE raids, who want an authoritarian regime right now. There's more incentive for them to pay agitators to get them to rise up and act like hooligans so that they can justify their actions. That's who benefits. George Soros, how do people on the left benefit from paid agitators? Being a paid agitator. What is the benefit there? The benefit is actually on the other side. You always have to follow the money. The people who benefit are those who sell these types of weapons, the non-lethal rounds, the people who sell the equipment, the people who are recruiting all the ICE agents, right? The entire ICE industrial complex. That's who's benefiting. And so, follow the money. Maybe they'd be the most likely to actually pay these agitators in order to ramp up ICE operations, in order to justify the ramping up of those operations. That's who's maybe more likely. Something to definitely keep in mind. But the bottom line is the majority of Americans right now clearly are not on the side of ICE. Yes, everybody wants strong borders. I think everybody would like to see deportations happen, or even better, people to self-deport. Trump was doing a great job for a while. They're getting people to self-deport. But this ramping up of these ICE raids, this militarization of our American cities, I don't think anybody's really, very, very few people are on board with this. Only the very diehard Trump supporters are on board with this. And that is, thank goodness, I think the minority of this country. Thanks for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, for free at KimIversonShow.com. See you there.